At the start of the story, there's a family who's come to the sea to celebrate their son Ben's birthday. They're at the Caribbean Sea, and everything around looks totally normal. Ben's mom, Julia, goes into the water for a swim, while Ben and his dad, Tom, are busy fishing. Suddenly, Julia feels something huge moving around beneath her in the water. She gets scared and looks around, but everything seems fine. Then, out of nowhere, some force pulls her down underwater. At that moment, the electronic devices on their boat start acting weird. But Ben and Tom don't pay attention since they're still busy fishing. Meanwhile, Julia is sinking underwater and calls out to Tom for help. But he's too far away, and with the noise, no one can hear her. Then Julia notices the sea water slowly pulling back. Tom sees this too. He looks at Julia and immediately rushes to save her. He jumps in. Meanwhile, Ben starts the boat's engine and heads their way. Tom somehow manages to save Julia from drowning, and Ben and Casey work together to pull both of them onto the boat. That's how Julia's life is saved. Once on the boat, Tom gets really mad at his daughter Casey. He says it's super important to keep an eye on someone when they're in the water. So why did she mess up? What would have happened if her mom got hurt? Casey realizes her mistake and apologizes. After that, everyone gets things under control and moves on. They start celebrating Ben's birthday again. Just then, Casey gets a call from her boyfriend. She looks up and sees a huge storm rapidly approaching the city. Seeing this, Casey panics because they're not in a safe place at all right now. She immediately tells her parents about it. After that, everyone starts checking the boat's safety together. Then they notice a bunch of massive whales and sharks swimming around their boat. Tom realizes that this kind of behavior usually signals a major natural danger or an incoming storm. He begins to understand. They know a massive storm is on its way. But before that, they have to face these dangerous sharks. Suddenly, their boat gets slammed by something really big. To see what happened, Tom jumps into the water and finds a huge dent under the boat, probably from a giant shark attack. When Tom comes back up, he's pretty badly hurt. Julia quickly stitches up his wounds. After that, Tom tells his family the boat's not safe to use anymore. Now, they only have one option left. The only option left was to somehow call for help. But sadly, the boat's communication system wasn't working at all. In this tough situation, Tom checks their food and water supplies and finds out they only have enough for 4 days. However, they still had some hope because they were on a shipping route, so there was a chance a ship might spot them. But just then, suddenly, they hear a loud and terrifying noise from outside. When they go out, they see a huge meteor heading straight toward them. If their boat had hit it, everything would have been over. So Tom quickly tries to start the boat's engine and get out of there. But he knew it would seriously damage the engine, and that's exactly what happens. The engine completely breaks down. Meanwhile, another meteor starts heading their way. Now, they have no way to save themselves. So everyone goes down to the bottom of the boat and puts on life jackets. Just then, there's a huge explosion and everyone passes out. When they come to, they see they're all alive, though they do have some injuries. The craziest part was that there was a huge hole under the boat, but somehow no water was coming in. When the whole family gets out of the boat, they see a scene that leaves them speechless. There are tons of fish all around the boat, and it looks like their boat is stuck in some hilly area, like they've landed on another planet. The whole place has completely changed. Where there was nothing but sea all around just last night, now, huge mountains and deep pits can be seen right after. Tom quickly pulls out his compass to check the direction and realizes that something major has happened to the Earth. The Earth's magnetic poles have swapped places. Where the North Pole used to be, now the South Pole is there, and where the South Pole was, the North Pole has taken its place. Because of this, places that were once land are now covered by the sea, and areas that were ocean have turned into land. Everyone gets really scared after learning this terrifying truth. Then Tom shares another frightening fact, that because of this change, they were probably on the ground and didn't survive. Hearing this, Casey breaks down and starts crying because her boyfriend was in the city, and now he might not be alive either. Meanwhile, Julia begins gathering leftover food and drinks. Tom starts packing up for Ben's birthday. At the same time, Ben lets some balloons go into the sky, hoping that if anyone nearby is alive, they'll see them. After that, Tom tries to reach someone through the radio. He didn't expect to get a reply, but surprisingly, someone responds from the other side. It's happening now. This answer comes from a captain who already knew about this ocean change because, like Tom, he was also in his submarine. Captain tells Tom that this shift in Earth's magnetic poles isn't permanent. Everything will go back to normal in about a week. That means the sea will return to its place after a week. But the captain warns that when the sea comes back, its waves will be extremely dangerous. So he tells Tom to head to higher ground, where they'll have a better chance of staying safe. Hearing this, Julia quickly tells her kids to pack their stuff. Tom pleads with the captain, saying his kids have a better chance of surviving in the submarine. Can he bring them along? The captain, reluctantly, says he wants to help, but one crew member has already died inside, and now there's only room for 2 people. He can take only one, and the other will have to stay behind. Hearing this, Tom gets emotional and begs him, asking if he can take both his kids in exchange for something. He says he's ready to do it. After hearing Tom's heartfelt request, the captain finally agrees. Then Tom figures out the location of the submarine and tells his wife they can reach there within 2 days. That means they'll be able to send their kids to a safe place before the sea returns, saving their lives. The next morning, the whole family is getting ready to head there. Suddenly, Tom spots a strange man coming toward them with a dog. The man looks injured, so Tom decides to help him. He walks up and gives him some water, music. But after drinking the water, instead of saying thanks, the man suddenly attacks Tom. Julia sees all this from a distance. The man pulls out a knife he had with him and stabs Tom, killing him. Julia can't save her husband, but she quickly rushes into the boat, locks the cabin door, and secures both her kids inside. Then she hands Casey a flare gun and tells him to only use it if it's really necessary. Just then, the dangerous man approaches the boat. He gets there. To avoid him, Julia hides in the bathroom and starts stitching her own wounds. Meanwhile, the killer starts looking for Julia inside the boat. Then he sees some food there and devours it like a starving animal, as if he hasn't eaten in days. After eating, he heads toward the cabin where the noise came from, but finds it empty. Actually, Julia had slipped out through a hole in the boat. But luck isn't on her side because that man's dog spots Julia. Julia is forced to kill the dog so it won't make any noise. After that, she hides under the boat. She doesn't fall into the killer's hands right away. But when the man sees his dog dead, he realizes Julia must be hiding nearby. Then Julia climbs back onto the boat and slips inside through a broken part. But after a little while, the killer catches her again. He grabs her by the hair, beats her badly, tortures her, and even tries to strangle her. Julia fights with all her might to save her life. Meanwhile, Casey, watching everything from inside the cabin, realizes it's the perfect moment to use the flare gun. Summoning her courage, she fires it at the killer. Although the attack doesn't hurt the killer much, things get even more dangerous. Then, suddenly, their boat catches fire. Julia rushes out to save her 2 kids, but right then, the dangerous killer attacks her again. Julia musters her courage and kicks him hard, sending him flying away. As soon as they step outside, Casey and Ben break down seeing their father's dead body and start crying loudly. They never imagined something like this could happen to them. Ben starts blaming himself, thinking that if he hadn't let the balloons go, maybe that guy wouldn't have found them. Meanwhile, Julia holds her husband's body and keeps crying. Then she sees the killer climbing out of the burning boat. Realizing it's no longer safe to stay, she runs away from there with the kids. Everyone gets really tired from running. So, they stop behind a hill to rest for a bit. They think maybe the killer has finally stopped chasing them. Ben is still crying, and Casey tries to comfort him and gives him some water, but he refuses to drink. Then Julia spots the killer still following them. Seeing that, they start running again. Even though they're exhausted, this time they don't stop because every time they look back, they see the same man. They're running and running until they finally reach a place filled with poisonous water. The path was really dangerous. Still, Julia decides to take her kids through this route. As they cross this toxic area, everyone starts feeling worse. Julia realizes that Ben is suffering from dehydration. They give him the little water they have left, but it doesn't help much. Casey completely breaks down and loses hope. She says they won't make it. But Julia, she scolds him, saying, "Be quiet and just do what I say. We'll move forward, and I'll keep you safe." Hearing Julia, they gather their courage again and move ahead. After walking a bit, they spot an old airplane that had crashed into the sea years ago. They all go inside and hide. Julia looks at a photo of her family one last time, the one they took just last night. Seeing the photo, everyone remembers Tom. Night has fallen, and they're all exhausted. So, Casey and Ben fall asleep. But Julia can't sleep, so she steps outside. That's when she sees the killer still following her, even in the dark. Julia goes back inside and pretends to go to sleep. As soon as the killer gets close, she suddenly attacks him. This time, Julia is furious and keeps stabbing him over and over until he's dead. Finally, the dangerous threat is gone, and Julia feels at peace knowing she avenged her husband's death. The next morning, they wake up and see the killer's body in a terrible state. Now they realize how dangerous this dried-up sea really is. Their next goal is to reach the place where the captain's submarine is. Julia is navigating the way using a map. Meanwhile, Ben gets extremely thirsty and goes ahead to drink water from a pond. Julia had already warned him that the water is poisonous, but Ben is so thirsty that he forgets. Julia quickly grabs him and pulls him away from the water, but by then he's already fallen sick. When Ben's condition got worse, Julia and Casey set up a small shelter nearby so they could rest for a bit. But not long after, Julia started hearing weird noises outside. She went out to check and saw a bunch of creepy crabs rushing toward them. Now, there was a whole new threat right in front of them. So, they took off running again to save their lives. After running some distance, they spotted a huge cargo ship filled with containers. Inside those containers, some people were hiding. When those people saw Julia, when Casey and Ben see them, they get scared and quickly run into a container, shutting the door behind them. Julia keeps begging them to open the door, but no one inside listens. Behind her, a whole army of dangerous crabs is coming. With no other choice, Julia climbs on top of the container with her kids. While climbing, a crab bites her, but she manages to hold on. Casey tears his clothes and ties them around his mom's wound. Just then, Julia faints from the pain and weakness. It happens. Meanwhile, Casey and Bane see that the terrifying crabs are crawling inside through the broken parts of the container and attacking the people hiding inside. The people inside try to fight back with guns, but there are so many crabs that they don't stand a chance for long. The next morning, when Julia wakes up, she realizes that both her kids are missing. Seeing this, she gets really scared because this place was super dangerous and anyone could have been killed. She starts crying, thinking maybe she lost her kids. But after a while, she spots Casey and Ben in the distance. They had gone out looking for food. By then, the crabs are gone too because they've wandered pretty far off. Seeing this, Julia feels a bit relieved. She tends to her wound while Ben starts getting the guns ready on the other side. Then Julia tries to contact the captain. The captain says sea creatures attacked him too, and he's badly hurt. So he can't help them now. Maybe. He also says that today the sea water is going to return to its old place, and that's why these dangerous creatures have come back. Meanwhile, Julia loses her map, so they have no idea which way leads to the submarine. Just then, the captain signals with his flare gun into the sky, and Ben spots it. After that, they quickly start heading toward the submarine. But getting there becomes really tough for them because they face poisonous areas and dangerous paths that they have to cross. It could have proven deadly. During this time, fear begins to settle in Casey's mind. She starts to doubt whether her mother will be able to save them. She argues with her mother, but Julia refuses to give up. She encourages her children and says that they will continue moving forward on the same path. Finally, gathering their courage once again, they continue along the dangerous route. But suddenly, a new problem appears before them. A massive piece of land blocks their path completely. Meanwhile, Julia falls behind. She goes ahead, but a big rock falls right in front of her, trapping her there. Casey isn't ready to leave her mom behind, but Julia convinces her, saying, "You have to save your brother. First, you need to get him to the submarine." Reluctantly, Casey takes her brother Ben and moves forward. When they reach the submarine, they find it empty. They start knocking on the door. Suddenly, the same captain shows up from behind, badly injured. He tells them there's no hope left for him and that he won't make it much longer. He's going to die. He also says that only 3 people can stay in the submarine now. As soon as Casey hears this, she immediately runs back to get her mom. Meanwhile, those dangerous crabs show up again in front of Julia and start attacking her. Julia fires her gun to defend herself, but she runs out of bullets pretty quickly. Just as a crab is about to attack her, Casey arrives suddenly and helps her mom. Somehow, they manage to get out of there. After that, they rush toward the submarine. They dive right in without wasting any time. But just then, a huge swarm of crabs attacks them, and at the same time, a massive ocean wave heads their way. The wave is almost 100 feet tall and slams into the submarine with a powerful hit. The impact knocks everyone inside unconscious. When they finally come to, they're shocked. Their submarine isn't sunk. Instead, the ocean current has carried them to a city that's completely destroyed. Seeing this terrible sight, they realize that maybe humans have. Existence is almost gone, and the movie ends right there with this scene.